I realized that I was living inside of a bubble, and how I saw myself living in the US was not how other people will see me when I'm in different parts of the world. And it sounds like, okay, duh, but I hadn't experienced that yet. There's a quote that I love by the great poet and philosopher Rumi that states, as you start to walk on the way appears. I think heavily on that quote, especially during times of transition, times like now, where there is a lot of uncertainty. And as I get older, I see why it's so important to just trust the way and allow the way to unfold how it will naturally. And even though I can say that with so much certainty, living it is another set of skills. I feel like my transition from where I was born and raised in the US to now living overseas full time has really helped me embody that quote. And it's not always easy, but I'm learning that it can be really, really exciting, and it definitely builds your trust muscle. Back in 2020, my life changed forever. And of course, there were obvious reasons why a lot of things were changing. But there was also this internal storm that was happening, and that on the outside, everything appeared to be fine. But internally, I was, as my sister said, spiraling. I've gotten this question a lot since I decided to sell everything in my apartment, including selling my car and basically just deciding to move to Bali for the very first time. It was my first time leaving the country, my first time living outside of the country, and I was going by myself. And although there was this huge level of excitement, there was also a flip side of it. I was really, really terrified. And I've gotten this question since because there's been so many things that's happened since I decided to leave, like finding my life partner, like someone that I knew that I could build a life with and someone that I am currently building a life with. And that has come with its own set of just blessings and transitions in and of itself, but also just the fact that for the first time in my life, for a very long time since the death of my father, I felt safe inside of my body. I felt like I didn't want to run and I didn't want to hide from who I really am. And that has been the greatest gift of leaving a place that I grew to call home. And now I'm really starting to realize that home really is where your heart is, because I've never felt more at home than I have since I left. It's a long story as to why I left, but I'll give the short version. But essentially, I'm living in my apartment. I just moved to New Haven. And to be honest, even though I mentioned this earlier, but on the outside, everything appeared fine. But on the inside, there was something that I just knew was lacking. Like I put all of my time and attention into building the life of my dreams, but I wasn't present for it. And I'd realized that when everything kind of just like hit the fan, like literally everything hit the fan, because there was no like nowhere to run now. Like I was literally facing myself, and I knew that something had to change. And so I remember during this time, I met with a mindset and meditation coach. And I've done meditations before on my own. I practice walking meditation daily. But this was different. This was a guided meditation. And the focus was on, where do you see yourself living? I can't quite remember if he said in the next 5 years or 10 years. I just remember the question was, where do you see yourself living? And immediately when I start this guided meditation, a jungle appears. I see banana leaves, I see a bamboo kind of like house looking thing. And I remember in this guided meditation, I'm thinking, okay, I have no idea where I am, but let's just, continue to see where this goes. And throughout this guided meditation, I'm looking at different aspects of my life. I can see where I'm living. I can see the people who I'm connected with. And there was one person in particular that I saw. I couldn't see them, I couldn't see their physical body, but I saw their essence. And more importantly, when I looked at myself, that's what really made this vision or this imagination, if you will. I don't know what to call it. I just know that I'm having this kind of like awareness and I'm seeing all of it unfold in my mind's eye. And I remember looking at myself as I'm out to dinner with this person, and I'm smiling from inside of my soul. Like I am laughing without fear. And when I say that I haven't experienced that since I was a child, I was like, okay, I look really, really happy. And it wasn't just like the looks of it. It was like I could see myself in this vision, and I could see that there was something that shifted inside of me. And I was so happy, and I was so just like I was present, if I could like say it that way. I was present. And so I come out of this meditation, and he asked me, where do you see yourself? And I'm like, okay, I see myself living in a jungle, but I have no idea where a jungle is. And also I don't like bugs, I don't like lizards, I don't do jungle life. Like that's not my at least that's what I thought at the time. I didn't think that was my thing, because I like things to be clean, and I don't like bugs inside of my, like it was that whole ordeal. Like I was like, I don't know about this, I don't know where any jungles are. So he was just like, he talked me through it, and he said, after our call, just go Google, jungles, and see if you can get a better idea of where you were. So I do that. And the first thing that pops up is Bali. And I'm like, where the heck is Bali? And then I start doing more research, find out, it's in Indonesia. I start going on YouTube, and then I discover that there is a whole community of people who are living abroad, living in places like Bali and Thailand and Vietnam. And they're living their lives. They're working online, but they're also living in these places, and they're connecting with people. And that was like when the lights like went on for me. I was like, oh my God, like I could still be in school, and I can also travel at the same time. Like this is crazy. I essentially started talking with people who were doing this. There was this YouTuber that I found. His name is Luke. I think his YouTube name is Luke Life of Charms. Ended up meeting him in Bali, and it was so funny because yeah, the way everything happened. But he literally, like, I booked a coaching call with him, and he was just like, I could tell you all this stuff, but the only way you'll really know what it's like is if you decide to take that leap of faith and come here on your own. And that was really like the thing that I needed in order to get me out of my comfort zone. So during this time when I had made up in my mind that I was going to move to Bali, and between the point of actually doing it, there was a lot happening. I didn't tell anyone that I was going to do it, because I didn't want anyone to talk me out of what I already decided to do. I don't think that they could have, but then again, a lot of the times when people don't see the vision for your life, they'll try to convince you that you're making the wrong decision. And I think that people really do mean the best for us. I really do think that the people who love us want us to be safe, and they want us to basically stay what we are so that they can keep an eye on us and keep us safe. But a lot of the times it's good for our it's good for us in that moment, but it's not good for us long term. And I had to realize that on my own. Okay, so before this story becomes longer than it needs to be, I'll just say that I ended up getting inside of Bali. So it took about a month and a half, maybe, before I was able to get my visa. But I was working with my visa agent at the time. And between, I think it was maybe December when I finally moved out of my apartment. And to be fair, everything was online during this time. So I moved to New Haven to start my PhD program at Yale. And I'd gotten a message that classes were going to be online for the year. And so I was like, geez, I just spent all this money moving here by myself, and I don't even have to be here. And so like a part of me was like, honestly, you could live anywhere in the world that you want to. Why would you want to live in a place where you don't feel connected to it? Why would you want to live in a place where yeah, you're just so far away from home? And there was always this under, like, now that I'm looking back on that moment in my life, I realized that I didn't really feel at home. I didn't really feel connected. I'm not saying that you have to necessarily go someplace else to feel that, but I will say that different cities and different environments hold different energy. And I'd realized that, and I was just ready for something different. I was just ready to try something new. I realized that I was living inside of a bubble, and how I saw myself living in the US was not how other people will see me when I'm in different parts of the world. And it sounds like, okay, duh, but I hadn't experienced that yet. And so I was experiencing a reality that was very different than the reality that I was used to. So that took a lot of like learning and unlearning. And this whole process, the past 2 years since I came in February 14th on the day of love in 2021. And I'm just now, and I stayed there for 6 months at that time. And then ended up meeting my partner, whom I lived with, and I live with in Berlin. And then we kind of traveled to different places. We've been to various, countries, but Bali has always felt the most grounding. Like Bali has always felt the most like home. And so I'm back now. I've been here for about 10 days, and it's taken me that long just to realize that I'm really here and I'm not dreaming, because I've literally talked about this place for the 2 years that I've been gone, and I've dreamt about, like, literally, I've not like dreamed, like daydream, like, no, I've literally had dreams about being back in this place. So now that I'm here, it's taken me some time to like ground myself and just realize that no, I'm really back here. And maybe an aspect of like making this video is to help me, because to be honest, I've gone back and forth about this to like just expressing myself more and talking more about my story, because I realized that it doesn't have to be perfect. Like even this YouTube video, like I'm sure my lighting isn't great, I'm sure that the audio isn't like 100%, like I'm trying my best to like make it something that is like good, but you know, there's always room for improvement. And I'm just now realizing that I have to let go of trying to make everything perfect and just do it. But I will say that it was worth it. And I wasn't able to see that when I was going through the transition. But now that it's been 2 years since I've been living abroad and kind of living in Bali back and forth, I've realized that if I'd never moved here, I would not have discovered parts of myself that I've discovered in the process. I wouldn't have saw the trauma that was literally guiding my life. Like I was literally living my life from a place of trauma, that everything that I did, being in school for 11 years, applying for all those scholarships, like everything that I've done was because I was running away from something. I was in fear of what would happen if. And now, where I am in my life, I see it as, even though I'm still doing the same thing, like I'm finishing my degree now at Yale, which is crazy to even like think about, but I am. But when I say I've had the most peace throughout this process, it's been one of learning. It's been one of not something that I have to do. I see it now as this is something that I get to do. I get to do research that's going to save someone. I get to do research that's going to have a positive impact in this world. And to me, living a life of service, living a life of using my gifts to positively impact others, if I can live a life that's going to help someone else out of a dark place, then to me, that is a life well lived. So maybe you don't have to move across the world in order to discover your personal treasure. But I will say that if you're in your comfort zone, there's only so much that you can grow. And I will also say that it is scary. It is completely terrifying when you try something new, when you try a different way of life. But I use this technique, and I don't know if it's helpful, but this is just what I use in order to get myself to try something new. Is I kind of trick my brain. I tell my brain, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to look. Like when I was moving to Bali, I was just like, you know what, brain, I'm just looking at flights. I'm just looking at Airbnbs. We don't have to do anything, like, let's just see what they got. Let's just look around a little bit. And like, that's literally how I got myself. And as soon as I saw an opening, I jumped. And I share this with my sister all the time, because she's like, Crystal, how do you just do things? Like, you're so fearless. I'm like, no, I have the fear, but just as easy as it is to have fear, it's really easy to let fear go. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but I just tricked myself into doing something new with the fear, because I think the fear is always going to be there. I think fear is an indicator that you're trying something new, that you're doing something out of the norm, and it's trying to keep you safe. Our brains are basically like wired to keep us safe, and that's not a bad thing. But it's not, I've realized, at least in my own journey, it doesn't necessarily help my spiritual evolution. And that is honestly where I am right now. I really want to be in a place where I'm being more authentic, where I'm allowing myself to show up more and more and not be afraid to be all of who I am. And even though there's definitely been like a level of progress, like the Crystal that I am now is nowhere close to where I used to be. Like I've never felt this much peace and just calmness in my spirit. And even during this moment now where there's a lot happening, I don't have a job for when I graduate. Like I don't know what the heck I'm gonna do when I graduate. Like I've been in school for 11 years, getting my doctorate, and I don't know. Who knows if I'm even going, like, I don't know. I know what my intentions are, but I don't know what my life is going to look like. And I can't create a life for my future while in the past. So I know that where I am now is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I want to be here for this. I don't know where your path will lead you. But what I will say is that there's a level of trust that you have to develop along the way in order for you to move forward, because it's one thing to have these feelings like you want something new, but it's another thing to act on those feelings. And the action is what basically shows our faith. And I'm not talking about a religious faith, I'm just talking about you believing that there is something inside of you that is greater than any obstacle, you believing that you can overcome any barrier, because we survived. If you're watching this video right now, you survived a lot of the trauma, a lot of the things that were meant to break you. I don't know. That's just my own personal experience. I can't speak for anyone else. I can only speak from my heart and my truth and my journey. So I hope that this is helpful. I hope you stick around. If this has been helpful, please comment, let me know which part of the story kind of resonated with you, which parts didn't. And, just like I said, keep it light, keep it in love, and give this video a thumbs up so it can reach more people. And I really want to start making more content. So this is my first attempt at trying a new style of content, because everything else has just been kind of like travel vlogs. But yeah, I want to try something different. I want to start using my voice more to empower others on their journey and to help people understand that they're not alone. And there is a space on the internet, hopefully here, where you can go and you can be all of who you are. And you can talk about your personal growth or your spiritual evolution. And it's just all love here. And I'm realizing that is the greatest force in this world. So thanks so much for stopping by, and I hope to see you around. Bye.